Great. So, good afternoon or hi, everyone. Welcome to the Black Women Build Wealth platform. My name is Sam. Super excited to have you here. And in my life today, I have a special guest for you guys. I have Dee from H and Dee Abroad, and I'll let her introduce herself and then we'll get started. I do have some questions for her, and hoping that when you guys join, if you have any question, feel free to put them in the comment. And maybe before I even start with D, I'm just gonna quote Ermin here. This is a conversation, you guys. So make sure to interact in the comments, and let's have this discussion together. So welcome D to the platform here. So I'll let you introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sam, for the invitation. I'm so glad to be able to share with your audience some of our lessons learned and plans as we are planning our move abroad. Of course, I'm Dee of the duo H and Dee Abroad. Our channel is all about being people that are kind of mid-career, mid-life, if you consider 50 to be midlife, and just the thoughtful journey that we have gone through to get to the point to be able to be open to moving abroad, and then the literal everyday things that we're considering in that process, from money to parents to adult children to careers. What does that look like when you are planning to move from your country of origin to other countries? If you're bopping another country, if you're choosing somewhere to kind of land and build a new life. So yeah, that's our channel. That's kind of our content area. We are highlighting this as a part of being a Black couple doing this, because the move abroad space has a lot of Black women who are embracing it. And we thought we have a unique perspective as a married couple.
This is great. I'm going to be full disclosure right now. I love your channel. I'm not married, but there's so much that I think I can relate with you guys. The whole moving abroad that I'm hoping to do in a few years, the parenting. Where I'm living right now is not my birth country, but I've lived here for so many years that I consider it literally, my home country at this point. And I love your channel because you guys really I like the fact that you are doing it even before moving abroad, where people can really get a sense of everything that actually goes into the whole idea of moving, getting ready to actually move abroad. So, can you share with the audience why? How did you guys come to the decision to move abroad, like to move outside of the United States?
Ooh, well, I think what we have disclosed, so it's no secret. I have dreamed of moving abroad since I was in middle school,
Mhm.
and you get to high school, people are asking, "What are you going to do?" And my heart was because I had attended a uh, religion-based school, was to do missions. I love the thought of interacting with people and cultures. I grew up an avid reader, so I wanted to visit a lot of the places that I had intentionally read about. We had exchange students at our school, and so just the idea of going to a new place. I learned French in high school because I was like, I want to go to a French speaking country. Like, and then the reality of my parents saying, that's really nice, but you need to get something that's going to pay the bills. And so that was kind of the first pushback to, moving abroad is more of a nice to have instead of something that you center as this is important to my personal growth. And so that's kind of what I chose, was to go to college. And once you go to college, you kind of are on a path to, you know, graduate school. And then I met my husband when we were in undergrad. We got married, and we've been married for 24 years. This year, he knew even when we were dating that was something that was something that I wanted to center when it made sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had our first child, and then 19 months later, we had our second child. And then, 3 years later. And so, along this path, you have student loan debt, you've
Mm-hmm.
got, then you buy the house because you've got two kids and you don't want them on top of each other. Then we decided to have a third child. Then I decided to get my PhD. Then, and so life just kind of lifed,
Mm-hmm.
and you lose track. I feel like women can tend to lose track of the self in the process, the mothering process, the being a spouse, the being a tax-paying citizen. And
Exactly.
so I looked up and said, "Who am I?" And went, I might want to start looking back at where I lost my sense of self. And
Mhm.
tied into that was the desire to move abroad. And when you've got home and student loan debt, and we were intentional about not having consumer debt. So like, we had a credit card that had a $1,000 limit that I
Wow.
would not let them increase. And so we didn't have a lot of consumer debt, but I had a lot of student loan debt. And that created the abyss between me and my dream. And so the more I doubled down on who am I, and what how could I tap into what could open me up to more personal discovery, more engagement with things like language and people, and stretching myself in a new way, which is good for your brain. It's good, it's just good all
Yeah.
around. And then the internet, I think, is what also brought, and that tells you how old I am. The internet and YouTube probably is what really tripped me into, not just I'd love to do this one day, not just I need citizenship or I need to get a job that will sponsor me, but to be able to see people actually doing the thing that I had dreamt about for 20 plus years.
Mhm.
That put me on a path to saying, I want to take this out of the back pocket and put this on the table, and
Mm.
like pull out all the things that not necessarily were barriers to me doing it, but definitely were things that, as you talked about with Stephanie Perry yesterday,
Yeah.
being the responsible adult, how could I be the responsible
Mhm.
adult with a partner, with three children, to do this thing? And so it really started to ignite when we had them. I was just like, I want our kids to be world citizens. I want them to learn a language when language development is very easy for
Yeah.
them to pick up, and just couldn't find a way. But when YouTube came out, I was just like, then this is here's a path. There are people that were beginning to share their journey. So the light came back on, the dream came alive. It went from pencil drawing to being able to color it in. But I had to have this isn't just a dream conversation with my spouse, and to say, what's going to give me the confidence that I don't just leave, but
Mhm.
to make it a sustainable move.
That's great. And so Now your kids are grown. What was their reaction when you actually told them we are planning to move abroad? How did they react?
Probably like most kids, that's really nice, mom. That's really nice, dad. My husband really, I think he kind of said, that's really nice for you to have that dream. It was being able to talk to the kids after we had had those conversations together where I shared why this was important to me, why it was important to me now, so that we could be on the same page when we were talking to our children. So we knew one of the important points in marriage, they talk about the 7 year itch, but then as the children are transitioning to living their lives, to developing their own dreams, their path to completing school and work,
Hmm.
then, parents are like, okay, so who are we and what do we want to do? So it was really in alignment with that. And our kids they were like, okay, that's really nice. We're whatever you'd like to do, depending on their age, because we started talking about it when we started mentioning we are probably thinking about moving abroad when our oldest daughter was in high school, so late high school. So she was kind of like, well, it could kind of hit me, it could kind of not hit me. Our middle child and our youngest child were more like, okay, so how does this affect us? And our oldest daughter also, because she was, she's probably, even though she's the oldest, um, she loves my husband. She loves her dad. She's very close with him. And so she was just like, okay, so what does that mean about our relationship?
Yeah.
Will I have access to you? Um, which kind of started unearthing some of the guilt, some emotions that, we were just like, okay, so we've been thinking about this from a logic perspective, but there's an emotional aspect to this process as
Mhm.
well, that I don't want our kids to feel abandoned. And I'm listening for that. It wasn't a one-time conversation, especially when we started putting a date to it.
Yeah.
It could be 5 years. Then I attended Exodus Summit last year and I was like, we're leaving in 2 years. Like, we're for real. We're for real, for real. COVID interrupted, but also
Mm.
interrupted our initial timeline, but it definitely gave us more time to sit
Okay.
with our children to talk about our hopes, our dreams, for them to share their hopes and dreams, and for them to be able to see that the move abroad process wasn't something that took us away from them, but also gave them the opportunity to engage the process either through residency, which our youngest son said yes, that he wanted to do with us, that it actually also helped us to consider other countries where up until age 26, as long as our children are not married, they can actually establish residency under us through family unification
Mhm.
in several countries. So the discussions with our children really helped us to consider what this process looked like to meet, my individual needs of, hey, I want to go, to
Yes.
our couple's needs, but to also incorporate our children if they decided to be a part of the move abroad process.
Yeah, this is great. And, I'm just listening to you and I'm thinking of Kroshan Wright at on Black Seed Global. And she
Mhm.
did mention that she wanted actually at first to move to Australia. But then in discussing with her daughter, she was like, listen, mom, we're okay with you moving abroad, but Australia is just too far. Is there any way we can meet? You can kind of go still far, but not so far. And then, she landed on Portugal. So was there something like that? Was there something like that that you guys talked about with your kids where they were like, yeah, fine, you want to move abroad, but definitely don't go that far because that's just too far for us. Did I put some restrictions to how far you can actually move away from the US, essentially?
They haven't really said that, but
Okay.
it did inform. our process. So, we've talked on our channel that our adult children are at the center of our consideration,
Mhm.
but also our parents. And so, with them being in their late 70s, we said, maybe the added benefit of looking at Mexico was that proximity issue, even if they did not express it, that they could see that we were considering proximity as a part of our process. So
Mhm.
where we land in Mexico, we're like, we are a direct flight back to the States.
Mhm.
Probably because of where we live now, it would be 2 plane rides. So we
Yeah.
probably, need to, um, we could get to them within roughly about 4 hours.
Mhm.
And so even with looking at Spain, that's roughly about a 6 hour plane ride. So they haven't expressed it. What we've said is these places are under consideration to maybe open up that part of the discussion
Mhm.
for them, but it also seems to be putting our parents at ease somewhat, because they hear that we are factoring in their needs, their their per- mm, that we are saying we still want to be available to you.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So now I know that Ermin and you just like me. You guys are the oldest child, all right?
we both
So
are. Yes.
here's my question to you. You just mentioned how you guys are keeping in mind the needs of your parent. Is that going to be a huge factor in essentially your decision of where you want to move to? So let's say if you really wanted to go to Thailand.
Mhm.
Thailand is very, very far. It's not a destination that is actually close. Would you actually drop that option and just, for you to be closer to your parents and your kids in this case, and do the responsible thing, like we say.
Well, let's see. So it's interesting you mentioned this because we're working on that with them. I don't think so, and this is why. One of the things that was important to us is to look at what is the circle of support
Mhm.
that we could build for our parents.
Mhm.
That if I could not get to them immediately, we're talking about in a half of a day, then who could be a part of that response team? So my husband and I, our sisters are both 4 years younger than us
Okay.
and live within a 3 mile radius of our parents. And there's some navigating that we're trying to do with them, um, around this topic that is kind of fraught with emotions,
Mhm.
because we as the oldest would probably be considered the go-to for that care. And now we're saying,
We're
if we
leaving.
can't get here, then we are really depending on you. This is a partnership and not it's one person's responsibility over the other.
Correct.
Um, and then how do we build that broader circle of support that could be responsive if they had something like an exploratory medical procedure, somebody that could come in and make sure that they are not in pain, that they're able to navigate their home space appropriately. Could we do, how would meal delivery look for them, getting them
Mhm.
back and forth to the doctors? So like if we can't be here, and I am saying publicly that no, where we choose to go isn't going to be shut off from that process. But I think the circle of support is my response, is how I'm being the responsible
Mhm.
adult that doesn't absolve my guilt. It doesn't make me feel less guilty. It helps me to be able to stand on this is what I can do within the proximity. Right now, we don't live in the same city with our parents, and so it would take us time to get to them, whether it's driving to my mother, who's about an hour and a half away, or getting on a plane to my father-in-law that is, he's probably about a 3 hour plane ride,
Hmm.
about a 9 or so hour, trip in the car to get to them. So we're going to have to navigate distance regardless.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No, this is great to hear. And like I say, being the oldest child, it's not a decision that you make easily. But I like that concept of circle of support. It's just, and to say it's not going to be only me who I can actually call on, who can be ready to help if the needs arise. So I think it's great. And so far you have mentioned two things that you're keeping in mind in your search for your destination, which is essentially, I guess, residency and proximity. What are the other things that you guys are keeping in mind? What are the factors that are going to be very important for you to make the decision on where to go? Because we have, I don't know how many hundreds of countries in the world. So I think close to 200, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a lot of choices. How are you going to determine the best destination for you, at least as a first spot when you move abroad from the USA?
So money. What country will maximize the
Your
US
money.
dollar? So we have prioritized. I mean, Adelia Borishade has
Hmm.
helped me to center that, along with a lot of other YouTubers who are abroad, that it's not, savings is not your flex when you're moving. Savings is a part of buoying you when you may face emergency situations where you need to top up.
Correct.
But having a way for income to continuously come in that you
Mhm.
can count on, especially someone like us, we are 20 plus years. We are, let's see, so if the retirement age in the US to receive your earliest Social Security benefit is 62, we are 12 years away from that.
Right. Mhm.
Even with a 401k, 59 and a half is still 9.5 years away. So we
Mhm.
still have to make money. The whole idea of moving abroad is really to be able to lower our monthly cost so that we can invest more. Um, and so we've gotten to the point where we're able to, you know, between 30 and 50% when we were really kind of going hard. And so, but things keep snatching money out of our hands here in the US. So, yes, I want to lower our cost of living, but I also want effective, affordable health care and access to healthcare professionals. Look, I'm 50. I'm having to center health care, but
You're
also
50, you're 50 years old young.
exactly. People say that, but I was just like, look, this body is doing new things. I'm here to listen and
Mhm.
give her what she needs to be her best self.
Yeah.
But yeah, healthcare is centered not only for, if we have health issues, and I think we have kind of shared some of the
Mhm.
issues that we have had along in our journey so far, but new ones are presenting themselves. But also, if our parents come to live with us, we need to be confident in the health care that is available to them. Um,
Mhm.
if my dollar goes farther in other places, then if there was a need for us to provide care, like my father in law had to provide 24-hour care for my mother in law. I want to be able to afford that. Medical debt in the US is pretty much at the top of the list for why people go bankrupt. That
Mhm.
cannot be that cannot be my story. I don't want that to be my story. I want what we, to preserve, to preserve what we have and continue to grow it, and to have opportunities to get in-home support, because that is cultural for me as a Black.
Mhm.
um, we take care of our families. We don't family members, we don't, unless they need the kind of focused care that I can't do even with in-home help, is when I look to have a facility provide that level of support. And so I want to be able to. So when we look at housing, we're not just housing costs, but what does that facility look like? Is it accessible by a wheelchair? By, like, I'm considering all of those things because yes, my husband and I may need that, but we want to be well positioned so
Mhm.
that our parents can come and stay with us, and we provide an affordable alternative than the thousands of dollars a week that it takes to care for a family member that really needs in-home physical therapy, that may need occupational therapy, that may need someone to help bathe and feed them, and those kinds of day-to-day functions. So, and also it will give us space to be able to emotionally invest in, if it's me caring for my partner or us
Mhm.
caring for our parents, that we have someone that helps, is able to help us to lift that. Probably the other things is a supportive community, not just an expat community, but a community where I feel like we can engage, and get to know. So yeah, is that country friendly? When we visit, are those folk friendly? I mean, I just, community is what we talk about, making the difference in a
Mhm.
lot of how we
Mhm.
can move about the world as world citizens. So yeah,
Mhm.
just being able to get some insight from people who live there has been a game changer on, oh, I didn't know that that was available in that country, or, oh, those people can help make this a soft landing. I mean, like, we interviewed Jewel Wren, that's
Mhm.
in Ecuador, and she's opening all kinds of doors for people there, finding housing. She's going into the places with cameras and saying, oh, they don't have this, or I can help you negotiate this price with, you tell me what is affordable to you, and I can help you identify that. Those are the kinds of things where the community is making a
Mhm.
difference in understanding what's also available to us, or things as laws change, they're sharing those things in those community groups. So probably those are and then taxes, girl, taxes.
Mhm.
If you are out here living your best life and working remotely, there are tax consequences in some countries, even when you earn your money outside. And so we are looking at the tax implications for how we earn our money. We know that you know, um, it will be a remote position, but is that country asking, we're going to be renting our house? Our house is not in that country, but I'm receiving funds from that. Do you want to tap into my dollars on top of the IRS, requirement? So yeah, we're
Mhm.
we're kind of navigating some of those. I guess I could have attached that to the money
Yeah.
part too.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So many aspects to keep in mind. That's why I love your channel, because you guys are so transparent on all of those aspects, and you also bring amazing guests on your channel. And um, it's good, for people like me. Like I told you, this actually live is for me, right? So I just happened to share it on my YouTube channel. But let me take 1 second to actually say hi to Devon, is in the chat. Hi, Devon, and Tracy, who's been admiring the monstera that you have there in the back, and she also sharing that she loves D&H. And I actually saw, I think, an interview you guys did not long ago, and Tracy was on it, talking about bringing I guess older kids, to the
Mhm.
destination that you go to. So, but one thing that I wanted to, like I say, I love your channel for that. Really helping people pre moving abroad. And let's stay on the topic of money here, since that's what we actually talking about. And so one thing that you did mention is that Ermin and you still have to work. You still have to work until, I guess, retirement, whenever you can draw from your investment account. So what is the plan when you actually move abroad? Because you won't be physically here in the US. Can you take your job with you where you're going? Is the goal is to change, find something remote? What is the plan?
Yeah, so I've been a little timid sharing with because I work for a government contractor that, you know, a lot of our business is um, has security clearance, even though my core work does not. And so, will they consider me taking my company laptop with me a security vulnerability? And so navigating that, when we navigate that, it's because 2020 is our go, 2024 is our go year. I've been really putting it off. I mean, if anybody's been nervous about that, please join me in my consternation for, because that's an alert that this person is at risk of leaving. Will I be denied projects? Will I, what will that look like? And so, yeah, I'm planning out that conversation with coaching from people who navigate the HR and workplace space on how to have that conversation with my manager that frames not my needs. I need to move abroad, so you need to meet my need, but how this could be beneficial to my company. And so, yeah, H is he's actually looking for work that he can do while he is building up his individual business. I did have Tracy on a while back because that group of ladies opened my eyes to, this is why you really want to have your own, you want to have your own jam going. You want to have, you're not looking for a job, you're looking to own what you do. And then you determine where you are, and you can set the parameters for where you work and your hours and things like that. And so just getting to the place where I feel like I have the information, I have the contacts that can help me make that lift, is giving me confidence to begin to pull those things together. So Tracy and Dr. Linda with Tokende Travel are a part of kind of my coaching network of women entrepreneurs that are saying, we're doing this thing. We can teach you how. You don't have to be the expert in every aspect. So I think we're going to kind of do both. We're going to be doing some work, but also building it up so that we can make a transition to really own the revenue streams. But it's Stephanie. I've got it up on I've got sticky note pads up around. The Stephanie Perry talks about rivers of income, and that is what we want. That gives me confidence and peace in being able to not just move abroad, but to make it a sustainable move. I come back because I choose, and not because we've run out of money or didn't consider, things that, something like income that could make a difference on how we lived in our move abroad journey.
This is great. And Tracy is also sharing, let your job be the investor for your business, which is a valid point for sure. And I think the money part, it's most of the time that will be a huge factor of why people will decide to not go, along with healthcare and also responsibilities, family responsibilities. And one thing that you mentioned earlier was debt. You did mention you didn't have consumer debt, but you had, or you still have, a lot of student loans. So how are you managing that part? And I know Adelia, she's a huge She has mentioned a student loan. You don't have to pay it before going because I guess there is a way for you maybe to put it on hold or whatnot. But how are you planning to actually manage that and not have to think about it when you reach your destination?
Yeah, we're still going to be thinking about it, unfortunately. Let's see. So, to talk about the student loan, so undergrad, graduate, PhD, student loan debt, we let sit. I mean, there were other priorities. I could move it around, I could pay minimum payments. But for me to feel confident that I could move abroad, it was a six-figure debt.
Hmm.
And so 2020, we were renting. I wish we had continued to rent, and I can talk about that if you're interested in that. But because of a series of decisions the owner of the house made, we moved. We made some decisions around housing. The student loan debt in 2020, when the world shut down, we had a sizable emergency fund, which gave so much peace. And then I started looking around at, okay, so if we're saving this because we're not going anywhere, a lot of the things that were where our money was going were reduced, and we had built this emergency fund. Then I started looking at what are the targets for paying off or paying down things. And I got brave enough to go onto the education portal, take a look at what we knew we owed, and literally do the debt snowball, smallest to greatest. And so we took the stimulus funds because we had gotten to the point where we had streamlined our monthly budget, that we were paying everything we could in large chunks. So life insurance, we're paying annually. Car insurance, we were paying twice a year. Any bills that could come out of month to month, we moved them to whatever the maximum amount was, which
Mhm.
which gave us a lot more capital to move things around in our monthly budget. So we just started knocking them out. So instead of those beautiful stimulus funds buying me,
A pair
things,
of
or buying
shoes.
things for the kids, I started knocking down those student loan debts. So, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, $12,000, $20,000, $40,000. We're
Wow.
paying. And so, we've always, and I think that is one treasure that I think I have with Herman, is we've considered any move that we make, that we do it based on one income. So literally, we lived on one income, the other income went to paying off the debt. And so, like, then now you've got the power of a salary plus going toward paying off these debts. And I mean, it's really fun. I mean, if you're a nerd like me, I got out. I created chain links, so every $1,000 we paid off came off the chains that were around. We were looking at our budget every let's see. So we had budget meetings twice a week. We were like, okay, so this is what we budgeted. Could we save some of that to throw at the debt? So, you've got that kind of momentum. We're sharing this journey with our kids. Like, they can see us being excited about, paying off this thing that now gets me closer, gets us closer, gets our family closer to paying off debt, and really opening our eyes to what are the other possibilities that we could have for when you have more of your income that is yours, that you're not giving to someone else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we had one final student loan debt. We chose to pay, the last two were five figures, and we chose to pay off the larger one and keep the smaller one because we were going to pay it off the next year. And because of the things that were happening to the house, we shifted with our rental, we shifted to buying a house instead of renting. Wrong. Worst move ever. And this is why.
This is the endless debate: rent or buy.
Never buy. And this is why I'm saying never buy. Especially when you know that you're at a point where you could make a move. You want the most amount of flexibility.
Mm, mm.
If you've seen on our channel, we have struggled with what should we do with our home? Should
Yeah.
we leave it as a legacy for our children? When we had that discussion with them, they were like, y'all we love the country. I love that just within walking distance, I see horses, I see cows, I see fields of cotton and corn. And I mean, that's what I love. They don't like having to make the drive into the city. And so, even though this is the house that I have always dreamed of having for my children, within 6 months of us moving here, our two oldest moved out into their own places because they are fully, they are full-time working adults making salaries that I wish I had had at 20 and 21 years old. Now they've, at 23 and 22, they're making really good money and they are managing that money really well. And so they were like, I can afford to move out. So now it's 3 people in a 4-bedroom house. Why? And so, and then the housing market did what we did not think that it would do and cool off fast. And so, and then Exodus Summit showing that, I don't need to stay here. There are multiple streams of income that we can. I was like, why are our goal was a 5-year plan to stay in the house for 5 years. After the summit, I was like, 2 years. We'll be here 2 years. I mean, like, you got to be careful when you get in these communities that give you the information, that give you traction to make your dreams a reality.
Yes.
It is that right there that you want to have the most mobility. And so we, as a culture, and I'd say Black American culture, is when you have a good job, you stay with that good job. And I've had the good job conversation with my mother. And I'm like, when the good job doesn't help me to accomplish my goals, like Stephanie Perry says, when your good job has you using all those benefits, that EAP, that medical benefit, something might be the matter, not just because the job gives you access, but it might be more of a stressor or more of a strain on you and is not feeding joy into your life. And then you want the most amount of flexibility to be able to say, now that I know where I want to go and what I want to do, I can get somebody to sublease the rest of this short-term lease, and I don't have to have a solution for capital gains tax. I don't have to have a solution for, what do I do if I leave the property here? Can I find a good property manager? What are people going to destroy my home if I decide to rent it? All of these questions get answered by just rent from somebody, and it would have been better. I felt like my back was against the wall, and I felt a little guilty because I wanted to give our kids a beautiful home. I wanted them to be here with us, and life advanced for them, and in centering their joy and we helped them move along, and now we've got to solve this problem. And so looking into and unpacking these cultural norms around how we acquire debt as Black people and how that can be the dream snatcher we were not anticipating is, I think, a conversation we should be having. We are having with our family, but that we should be having as a community, because it is not the wealth builder
Mhm.
that a lot of us have anticipated it to be.
That is, I mean, you said so many things that I want to touch on here. But the first thing, actually, going back to Devon question and Nicole, I hope I'm saying this right, has already shared that she sold her house. She's team rent for now. What are you guys planning on doing with that beautiful country house that you just purchased? Are you planning to sell the house before you move abroad? What are the plans? I know Aging Grateful, who just joined us in the chat here, Bobby and Cedric, they're renting their spot, they're renting their house in the
Yes.
US. Some have decided to sell. So what are you and Ermin doing with the house?
So the plan is to rent, and that is twofold. Okay, so probably the biggest commitment in my life was getting married. But outside of that, I'm like commitment phobic. Like I- that is why all of my contributions to our retirement fund is automated. Our savings is automated, because
Mhm.
if I started looking at the market going up and down, I would be all over the place. And so I feel like hiring a property manager and just saying this property is a business for right now, and kind of taking the emotion out. But I need a safety. If this don't work out and I have to come back to the States, like I've got a year or two to make that decision, while somebody, like Cedric has said, somebody else is paying, for the
Mhm.
lawn service. Someone else is paying for for the the upkeep, the utilities, the things that are, if I just kept the house, that I would still have as a part of my monthly budget. And I don't want to do that. And I think renting gives us the quickest option for right now, and to keep us from having some of those tax implications, because it was a new home purchase. We need to keep it so that we kind of get out of that capital gains,
Mhm.
that capital gains tax um, hit that could happen if we sold it before.
Okay. This is great. And I think, I don't think there is one right answer to this. You might, and it's okay to go for one option and then change after. But definitely, one thing that sometimes I hear people talk about is like, what am I gonna do with my house when I go? And I'm like, the house will still be here when you go. So you make the decision right now of what you want the house to do. And I think that's why, I'm a huge believer that we have to let things run our lives. We spend so much time acquiring stuff and holding on to stuff, and those stuff become the boss of us, right? So and it takes us so long to make decision. And so I like that, you guys already have a plan with your house, because that's a big decision to make, especially that you just purchased the house. That was your dream house. And with the kids moving out, now you're like, okay, well, at the same time, it gives you also that's nothing, it just increase your chance, to decide to move abroad. So I think that's also, it's a good thing. So one thing that I want to touch on, and someone already said here, Devon, she did mention that growing up, nobody really talked to her about building wealth and investing. And our community, we don't talk about money. And I totally agree. I realize, I'm from Africa, from the continent,
Mhm.
and being here in Canada for more than 20 years, and I realized that that has nothing to do with like Black people from Africa or from the Caribbean. It's really something that I think within the community, for some reason, money is taboo. A lot of us, we grew up not really talking about money with our parents, or we will hear the same thing again, money doesn't grow on the tree, all of those things that really don't help, really. They don't really tell you how to manage your money. And so we go out there in the world, we start making money, and a lot of us, we make really bad mistakes just because nobody really taught us anything. What is your take on that? Especially that now you have three grown-ups, three grown kids. How did you manage that? When did you start talking to them about money? Like, how did you bring that, in as a subject with them? And what do you suggest to people out there struggling with that?
Well, probably I would say pretty early on. Let's see. I'm trying to. Our approach was transparency, with a temper to children should not be burdened with um, the financial concerns, but they should definitely be aware of what things have a cost. Okay. And so we have tried to help them to see. Um, one of our kids was like, "Can't you just write a check for that?" And I was like, "Check means money is in the bank.
Yeah.
It's not just a piece of paper that you can give someone. It means something." When they were younger, we would have them, and they were learning to count money. We would send them to the counter, and and we're talking, you know, 10 years old, 9 years old, saying, "You are going to the counter to make this purchase, and you need to be able to calculate this fast enough to know what change you will get back, and in what denominations will it come back to you."
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so at least two of the three of our children really enjoyed that. One of them, I won't identify which one of them, wasn't really game for that. Sending them into the store to make purchases. And we say, "You need to know the brands that we buy. You need to, and I want you to go in, find it." And we weren't just tossing them there. We were trying to help them to create an awareness of the fruits and vegetables on the outside. The rows do this. Go grab this for me in the store. And then we were sending them in to make those transactions. Money awareness, I think, is important.
Yeah.
And then doing things like they were going on school trips. You're responsible for raising X amount of dollars, and we will match that dollar for dollar. So we've done things like that with them buying their cars, them um, going on their senior class trips, or our son wanted a double bass because he wanted to take double bass lessons. So I was just like, "Okay, it costs this. So we'll be paying X amount and you'll pay Y amount." And
Hmm.
meeting in the middle, because when they are invested in that way, then it builds value. Those things build value for them. It's still a sticker shock, as my son was just like, "Oh, I mean, like, I pay for the place to live and the utilities and the
Yes.
food that goes in there." And he was just like, "I can't get internet right now." It was so funny to see him say that. He was like, "I'm gonna have to slow my roll on the internet." And I was like, "Dude, I mean, like,
Yeah.
he's an engineer." And I'm like, "You make more money. The money you're making, I made closer to age 30, and you're early 20s, and you're talking about, let
Mhm.
me slow my roll on a $50 internet."
Yeah.
But that sticker shock, I think, is important for them to understand. We also, because we homeschooled, we were able to do a lot of these things as a part of their education, which is kind of different than if they were just in school. And we were depending on the
Mhm.
education system to do that for us. So, oh goodness, I'm trying to remember what they call it for. It's Financial Peace Junior.
Okay.
So Dave Ramsey's program, we did with them. So the envelope system we did with them, and then we had them do the Financial Peace, the young adult version that has the videos, that the video series for them. So
Mhm.
we just made that part of their curriculum. What do you call that? When you do economics, business and
Oh, yeah.
economics in high school, that was their curriculum. We didn't even have to do it. So,
Yeah.
and then we had discussions outside of that. And then literally, like I said, having them part of the budget discussion. So it's not no, it's no because, or we're going to say yes, but it's going to take time. So
Mhm.
you can see the thermometer go up as we took a family trip. We haven't always been financially secure.
Mhm.
Um, the economic downturn in 2011 hit both of us. My husband and I, when within 2 weeks of each other, I got our agency was disestablished. I worked for the Department of Defense,
Wow.
and 17,000 of us were let go. And then 2 weeks later, my husband worked for for county government in the state that we live in, and at that time, it was the largest county bankruptcy in the U.S. So within 2 weeks of each other, neither
Wow.
one of us had work. And so it took a lot. It was emotionally straining, and the kids knew that things were happening. Um, the worst thing we knew we could do was to hold back from them what was happening. And so, as a part of that process, saying, things that we had not been able to do, or things that we had been able to do, we might not be able to do as frequently.
Mhm.
But we had a big family trip. And so the kids were like, they were praying, can we get the tickets? Literally like kneeling down, making that a part of their religious, uh, you know, um, prayer time, please help us to find a way. And like for them to be able to see how we were able to sell plates. I mean, y'all, we had fish fry. I mean, like in the US, you have a fish fry, we were doing stuff like that to generate funds. We were having yard sales that they were a part of. We wanted them to see that they could be a part of the solution, that they could make a difference. Sometimes we had great outcomes. Sometimes it was bad. Like, we
Yeah.
would take them to school because we didn't have enough gas. And so we'd stay on that side of town till we came home. We had to be really creative about how we ate, and, understanding that cooking at home versus eating out. So, I mean, I know this is probably way more than what you wanted about talking to kids, but yeah, even things like we saw, because we lived in a neighborhood that was Black. If you are Black in the United States, the Black neighborhoods, some of the Black neighborhoods can be fraught with, um, what are they called? Payday loan.
Oh, yeah. Don't
And
get me
so
started on that.
we started seeing more and more of them, not just in areas where people were, kind of marginalized incomes. They were popping up in more of them were popping up in higher end neighborhoods as well, and having real conversations with them about, yeah, our state allows over 400% interest when you don't pay on those payday loans. They can take your car if you use that as collateral. People, you might start off, borrowing $500 or $1,000 and owing, $5 and $10,000. You don't want to have your back against the wall. An emergency fund is critical. To see us navigate that as a family, to have those visual conversations about, yeah, when you get your birthday money, this is for spending, this is for saving, this is for giving.
Yeah. Mhm.
It were conversations we've had with them since they were younger, and helping them navigate things like, my first job, I did not have matching. My daughter works for the federal government. Our son, like I said, is an engineer. They are able to get match. I was like, if you tell me you're not getting the full match at your job, it's going to be, you're going to have to answer to me. And so we're continuing to walk them through. My parents had limited information that they shared with me as I was an adult. My husband's father was, um, was involved in that kind of financial conversations because that was a part of his job.
Mhm.
And, even as a pastor, that was a part of those budget conversations, those, trusts, having a living, having a will, a trust. Those were centered to his job. So my husband has more of that, grew up with that kind of knowledge more than I did, but we're feeding what we know. Are they listening? I don't know. But I'm hoping that I send them text messages. I send them, different articles and things that are sharing with them. Young people your age. You talked about Coast Fi yesterday with Stephanie
Yeah.
Perry. I was like, y'all, this is the real win. Coast Fi is your real win because of the options it puts on the table. No employer will be able, you won't have to say, I have to stay here to be
No,
able to fund my life. So
correct.
that's
Yeah.
us.
No, this is great. And honestly, I just love how you guys have been really involving your children. I don't know, were you raised like that? Did your parent also did they do the same with you?
To a very, what do you call that? There was some exposure, but not my, I was like, I needed to know a whole lot more, a lot sooner. And so that was the approach we took with our kids is if I had known that 10 years before, that could have really made a difference. So let's give it to our kids along the way. Did we do, and I'm just like, who talks to you about investments? Who talks to you about what a
Mhm.
401k is? Yes, they are taking money out of your bank account, but the strange thing is when you don't see it, you don't see it. And then I go and look in my account and I'm like, oh, that's more than what I put in there.
Mhm.
I need to, being able to open up our account and show them that, I think is what I didn't get, what in the household I was raised in. I won't speak for my husband, but that I even before my dad died, those were the questions I was asking him. Okay, so how did you do this? And how did you do that? And he was just like, some of it, he was just like, it just worked out. And some, he was like, I was able to do what's called catch up. So I knew at age 50, there would be new opportunities. At age 55, there may be some additional opportunities so that I have that knowledge. So yeah, I knew to ask the questions when I was an adult. We weren't waiting for them
Mhm.
to ask us. That was the approach we used.
Okay. No, this is actually this is great. And in terms of them listening, I have like I say, I have also younger siblings, much younger than me, and also younger cousin. And I remember my young cousin, and she's like 22 now, but when she started working last year at a small company, I'm like, go get the employee handbook and see what they're offering you. Like, do they have a pension and all that? She
Yes.
didn't do it. And she's like, I don't want to do all that because I'm not staying at this company. It's a small company. I'm just doing this for now. Within 6 months, I'll be gone. It's been a year and a half and she's still there. So last time I asked her, I'm like, so what are they doing with do you know if they're doing something for your pension? She's like, I think they're matching the same percentage like me. And I'm like, so what are you waiting for? Why don't you go and she gave me the same response. She's like, no, I'm looking for another job. And I'm like, in the meantime, can you
Money,
please open that account and start
time,
contributing?
time plus consistency. That's all it is. And what a lot of people don't recognize is yes, I could put money there, but you have to tell it what to do. You have to attach it to a fund. And I was just like, don't miss these opportunities to learn. I mean, if I could have a magic wand, there would be no shame and no guilt in showing people, hey, this is what's in my account. This is how I'm growing my money. You can do the same thing. Where we have money accountability groups. You need that as a, what do you call that? An early career person.
Yes.
the decisions you make in your early career, whether it's negotiating your salary, especially as women,
Mm-hmm.
we're already going to be behind. But then, like you said, taking that handbook and looking for, oh, you mean I've got the flexibility, or a mistake that Libria Jones, that is what did she call it? The queen of remote work.
Yeah, remote
What
work,
she
exactly.
said was she didn't realize that jumping from job to job, she missed out on her vesting. And
Mm,
I was just like, that right there was
correct.
a game changer in me actually staying with my employer, not just because we vest early, but that the amount that they match increases over time. It is the
Correct.
carrot. It
Yes.
is the carrot. If it's a bad job, don't let that be your carrot. But you might want to be mindful about not just what job you have, but when you decide to leave, so that you are able
Mm-hmm.
to take those. But if people aren't talking, you just, if you know, I,
Yeah. So that's the thing. And to Nicole's points here, we were taught that desiring wealth was somehow evil, right? So we were only taught that to desire God, and if He wanted to give it to us, then once we were obedient enough. And why do we have such a hard time talking about money in the Black community? What is your take on that? I'm curious.
I just, um, to be honest, I think there's the opportunity for the Black excellence glass to be broken. That, yes, I might have the house and the car, but my budget is in a shambles. I'm more about the show than the substance. And I see other communities where it looks like, they're driving, like our general manager drives an old Honda Civic to work. And like, then I see other folk flexing, they've got the Hummers, and I'm just like, it's the perception that um, we want to appear a certain way. I think the discussions, even within families, and I'm talking as a 50-year-old person, that myself and my friends, you know, having a parent tell you how much they have, where it is, signing so that you can be an executor on their account if there are no, that is an uphill battle. Both ways, both arms up. We are fighting a battle for privacy that is
Yes.
not only not necessary, but puts us in a hugely vulnerable position
Mm-hmm.
for when you need to have care, when somebody needs to know what's really happening. You can't feed yourself. You can't,
Yeah.
because I just, that the level of secrecy that we have around money, about what's actually happening around, the perceptions of having, and being able to flash that wealth, is deep seated. I think it's to be able to say, I'm better than the experience that we've come from.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, but my mother and dad always said, the next generation should be better than the previous one.
I agree.
And so the underlying is not that we should be building the foundation. It's that
Mhm.
we should show that we're doing better. And I'm saying all my money is going down the drain trying to show people that I got this or that. And, and that is, I think it's one area that we need to build safety and trust within our families, where they are willing
Mhm.
to build it. But it is a huge vulnerability, um, when you think about, as our parents age, the risk of someone coming in and convincing them that an issue that happened with a friend of mine, that um, that the home that the parents had bought, that this person could come in and just live and pay whatever they could, if they wanted to.
Oh wow.
That's an asset that's literally being driven into the ground because the parent doesn't want to disclose. No one has any idea where the bank accounts are, what number, what's in them, you know. And so if you need if you need care paid for,
Hmm.
you keep saying money is available, but we're going to have to come up with that. Um, Even to the point of people saying, oh, yeah, my burial is taken care of, but people are having to raise money, GoFundMe, to bury people. These are the realities that we
Hmm.
have to say, not on my watch, not. And so whether families are willing to have that conversation, it is deep seated, it is intergenerational, and we have to be willing to break those chains with transparency where we can. And I think as a parent, I can do that for and with our kids.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing you can control, because in trying to talk to our parents, which I've tried also talking to my mom about it, just asking a simple question that, do you have a will in place? And the answer was like, it's not good to talk about death. And I'm like, isn't it the most obvious thing that everybody can be guaranteed of in this life?
Mhm.
And so, for her, it was just like, why are you asking me that? And for me, it was just like, so then we can talk about it and we can be prepared. Because when I put my will in place, I reach out to my executors and I'm like, this is the way I'm going to be doing it. If something happens and, I'm on my way to the highest glory, I want this to be done with my kids and all that. But again, money, death, it's just some of those topics within the Black community that just people don't want to talk about. And it's not, honestly, it's not really giving us, doing us any good service, right? So it's I'm glad to hear that, you're doing it with your kids and you're also trying to get your parents on board, trying to get some information from them and help them. Because yeah, let's not wait for the time it happens, because that's gonna happen at one point, right? So that's good. So okay, so this is great. A lot of money talks, but I want to come back to the moving abroad part. And I know you guys have been, like hinting some countries that you might move to. You haven't really said anything, definitive on your channel. Like each time there is a video or live, I'm like, maybe they're gonna announce something. They're gonna say where they're going. And Ermin with his calm voice is like, "We are still looking at this. We are looking at our options." And I'm like,
Come
"Don't
on, come on.
spill the tea." But can you share with the audience what are the countries that you are considering right now, and why, essentially?
Yeah, probably I'm going to start with the why. What has happened on our journey is the more you learn, the more, if you've clarified what does the move abroad need to look like for us, it needs to be that I can center more time to health and wellness, my health and wellness, that I have more time to do that. Whether that's I go and exercise, prepare my food, have flexibility in my day. So what does, and then looking for places where I can integrate that lifestyle, and then vetting that with things like spending time on the ground, but also a lot about what is available in those countries has shifted and changed over the year. So
Wow.
literally, we were like, "Oh yeah, we're going to do this," and then we're like, "Maybe over
Maybe
here
not.
kind of looks a little bit better." It lines up with what we've set as our objectives.
Mm.
Does this give access to our kids? Can our parents come and they qualify under our residency? Things like I love siesta. Y'all know Spain is the country that I was just like, woo! A culture that says rest is a part of the day. It is an expectation that you
Mm-hmm.
will take a rest from your employer. You don't have to fight for that.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not like you get a lunch hour, you get like the afternoon
Mm-hmm.
to be able to take a nap, to eat with family leisurely. And that siesta culture really vibe with me. The tax brackets, woo.
That stings.
Yeah. So there's a push pull there. Sonia from Lack to Legacy is in my happy place. She's in Thailand, and so he's able to kind of say, okay, so I love being here. It's affordable. It's checking all the boxes, the food, the people, the culture, the accessibility to massages. If I wanted one every day, every week, I could get my nails done. I can, the transportation is so easy, so accessible. She was like, but baby, if you do anything related to the East Coast, you're going to be up at odd hours. And I just can't do that. And so some of those things we've been able to see because we've been now that we've identified some countries, we're able to say, okay, will that help us meet that in a short term or long term? It's also helped us to evolve our plan. So initially, and I know you probably weren't asking for all this, but initially we were like, okay, we need to pick a place and then land. And then
Yeah.
the more stories, the more people that we were paying attention to, especially in the Exodus Summit community, maybe this country is where we land just to get used to being outside of the US. It's
Exactly.
close enough,
Yeah.
but it still gives us that we've moved while we set our targets on the next place. Will that place be where we have to stay for a while, like Ecuador, because we want to get residency, so we have to be there for 21 months?
Mm-hmm.
When does that work? Does that work on the front end of this? Does it work on, kind of when we've got our businesses established and we can kind of be anywhere and kind of sit in places for a longer period of time? And then we're also paying attention to things like our parents' health, and so we were talking about that proximity, but beautiful places that we've mentioned on our channel: Mexico, Ecuador, Spain, Thailand, Malaysia. We've also interviewed people from Japan. And I'm mentioning Japan and specifically Spain because even though I'm looking at could I get a job that allows me to work there, we've also talked about could we take an extended honeymoon where we work minimally, where we don't have to find a job because these countries are paying people to come in. So Spain looks like an option because we don't have to come up with a job. We'd be working for either the Spanish government with their teacher exchange program. So we would be making euros where we wouldn't have that conversion deficit.
Oh, yeah.
It's affordable, housing is affordable. It's the two of us, doing the same thing. And we're only working 16 hours a week.
That's it.
We just had someone on that's in Japan. She's doing the teacher exchange program. And she talked about how well she's able to live on a teacher's budget with a husband and a young child. And housing and her car and things that were taken care of as a part of that process that were possibilities. And so to be able to declare means, okay, I think we'll be ready to announce when we feel like we're able to make a definitive, none of this is going to be stable.
Yes.
And that's kind of what, as our eyes have popped open about a lot of places, as I've looked at work in the UAE, it's very attractive. beautiful salaries, no
No
taxes.
tax.
I mean, I was just like, I mean, like you could really live your whole best life in 140 degrees
Correct.
in the desert, but I have asthma. You know, are there considerations, y'all? I'm
Mm,
just saying, when it comes time to make a decision, um, it may be for a shorter period of time where we actually start somewhere, and then then we're doing more exploration to solution a different part of our move
mhm,
abroad plan. So
correct.
having a primary residence, somewhere where we are on a path to permanent residency, is a goal. Somewhere where we have access to a second residency, that maybe that also our children and our parents could participate in one or both of those, is a priority. Making sure that the last student loan debt, these last little bit of taxes that need to be made, we have to prioritize places that lower taxes. They don't tax what you make if you make it outside the country. And so those things are coming into sharper view as we are coming to 2024, when we want to make a decision, because we have to align things in the US, like having our, you would look in this room, y'all see these plants. I mean, you've seen plants in the background. I've got green plants everywhere. We've got to get things out of the house so that we can rent it. And I have to give myself a deadline, and we need to know a place to go. So yes, we will probably be announcing something soon, because having a target will help us to understand and put into place things like, okay, now I'm going to look for housing.
Exactly.
Now I need to be able to tell my employer where I'm going. So when I have that conversation, that, if there are any security concerns, they're able to vet that. So yeah,
Mhm.
there's pushback that I need as a part of the accountability. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that's probably, selfishly, it's why we have the YouTube channel, is so that we get these questions and don't kick it down the road, which I think can happen to a lot of people. Um,
Mhm.
having the money plan is critical. I cannot leave without having some way for income for myself, income for my husband, while we build out our business concepts. We had to decide what was the most critical, and not everything had to be perfect. And as you know, in our Exodus Summit community, we know perfection is the death of creativity, and it is the
Correct.
death of dreams.
Yeah.
And so I'm not looking for a perfect move. I'm looking for what is doable, what is within our price range, what will help us to check off the most important things, and give us the confidence to then either move farther, or to move to places that can check more boxes
Mhm.
along the way.
Yeah. This is great, and honestly, I strongly recommend to anyone who's watching this live and who's watching the replay, go right ahead and subscribe to their channel, because they're really putting out there like, such an important content. And I like how you really cover all the bases when it comes to, deciding to move abroad, and also bringing those amazing guests who have done it on your channel. So I'm looking forward to more videos. Of course, I'm looking forward to the video where you'll say where you're going. I'll be like, finally, we know.
Finally!
Yes.
I
And
saw
I know
you ask the question. I was like,
right
I
there.
know you're going to ask that when I joined you, and I'm so glad to see that people can see this is not this process is not a I today I left, and I landed, and now I have this beautiful life. If you are navigating this space, it should be with intention. Like every other part of your life, it should be done with intention. The sustainability aspect is critical to me as a wife.
Mhm.
It will cause less gray hairs, even though my husband has no hair. He family's fault. It will cause less grain for him and bring more peace in our relationship. I think it will bring peace to our family members to know that the things that we need to take care of ourselves are in place, and that we can experience joy. And that's what the move abroad process should be. It should be joy. You're going to have challenges, but it should bring you joy. Tracy's in the chat. She talked about the struggle of, I'm just trying to find a place to live. I got money. Nobody wants my money here.
I'm
Okay.
done.
I have to this is that doesn't bring me joy. There's somewhere that will bring, and she's found a beautiful place. Those are the messages of hope that I think that are important for me to see as, on the cusp, but also I think is critical that I'm hoping that's beneficial that we're sharing is, you're going to navigate a lot of emotional, financial, social, environmental, the nuts and bolts of things to craft the life that will just be the fertile ground for you to be your best self.
That is great. That's great. And, I know Aging Grateful and probably Tracy, they're all like militating for you guys to at least choose Mexico as your first spot when you move abroad. We'll see, because, like you say, you mentioned Spain, you mentioned Ecuador, like you say, all of those countries, they have great advantages. But of course, there is no perfect country. And I like the way you approach this. And I really want to really repeat it again. Don't try to do the perfect move. You're never going to do it, because what are the chances? So I think it's important to give ourselves some grace and just find a spot that meets most of our needs. And then once we get there, we are not trees. If that doesn't work, then we can move to another location, another city, another continent. The world is our oyster. So I like that, you just really reinforcing that to not try to be perfect in what we're doing, because that will literally kill your joy, your dreams. And then you'd be like, oh, I might as well stay here in the US. And we don't want that for you.
My husband's dreams, our real dream is for us to have time to spend. He loves Rwanda. He says, I feel called to make a longer term visit. This will help us to try places that, hey, I don't want to do it for 2 weeks. I don't want to fall in love and then have to just yank myself up out of a beautiful place. And so I think more opportunities. These are the opportunities I see, and we haven't even left. That 10-year visa. I
know.
Come on, let's go. This is the come on, let's go. Once you got that confidence and people are doing it, I'm so excited. We had someone from Tanzania on as well. I was not paying attention, and now I am, because we're taking classes with them to kind of understand, land purchase and building and, business opportunities. So I just say, my husband and I consider ourselves lifelong learners, and I will never know enough. You answered a critical question yesterday when talking about your workshop for this Saturday that I didn't realize I had until it was later when you asked on your community board, what's the reason why you haven't signed up? And when you were describing the sessions, I was like, register. Because baby, there's some things that you're going to have in that session about entrepreneurship and about money that I need to hear. I need to meet these people that are doing the thing. They're not just talking about it. They're actually doing the thing. They're experienced in teaching people. And then the salons where I can learn, talk to other people and massage the information more. Yeah. And it's not just for, even though a lot of the speakers are in Canada, you're in Canada, like these are universal
Exactly.
concepts. I was just like, sold.
Definitely, and actually, as of now, we have more people from the US registered than Canada, and that's great. But maybe to touch on this question that we have here now that you mentioned Rwanda and Tanzania, Third Eye Nation was wondering which country in Africa I can go to rest. I think Africa is such a big continent. It's really hard to tell, but definitely, names like Rwanda, South Africa, Ghana, Senegal, Tanzania, Kenya. I
Mhm,
hear, those countries quite a bit. They seem to be very popular with expats from the US and from Canada as well. So it seems like they're offering a bit of soft landing
mhm.
to immigrants into to the country. But definitely, each and every person need to do their own due diligence, because it's so hard to tell. Someone might love it and then you'll get there and hate it. Scouting trip, highly recommended. Minimum 2 to 3 weeks, even a month, to really see it. And yeah, I think it's really worth looking into. Hmm. Yeah. Any take on that question?
Oh, I promise you. I think what I have recognized is that I'm not waiting to do a thing for when I move. I'm centering rest now. And then when I visit a place, we've said on the channel before, I consider myself to be empathic. And so
Hmm.
there is a vibration that I'm looking to match or to deepen
Hmm.
in my spirit. And so that is critical to spend time to see if there is a match. But I think to find a place to rest, you need to center rest so that you'll be able to know your place.
Hmm.
There, like you said, there are places that check off the, that you can research, but it is, you don't understand. And I'm going to use Mexico
Until you
as an
get there.
example. Walkability, baby, is a
Hmm.
whole different game when you are considering,
Yeah.
sidewalks that, some sidewalks that can, that are not leveled, but they go places. When you have your list of, as Cedric and Bobby have talked about on Aging Grateful, your non-negotiables. I need to
Yes.
be able to have certain things available to me, that are critical to my happiness, and then using what you have centered personally and that list to then do your Googles, to do your to begin to follow people who are talking about real life, whether that's Facebook communities, whether that is people that are on YouTube sharing their everyday life. And then nothing beats being on the ground
Correct.
yourself,
Yeah.
because the things that you are looking for will make sense when you get on the ground.
Mhm.
And and so having those local contacts will also help. I was not considering San Miguel, to be honest with you, and I'm just going to share just like the most recent evolution of this. Too many expats are talking about being there. I don't want to go to an expat heavy area. I considered it to be too expensive, because when you have places where it's heavy expats, there are more English speakers, which means the culture
Yes.
is shifting and changing. I don't want that. I'm going to a country to experience the country. But Tracy said when she got on the ground, what was being portrayed was a certain area. What
Okay.
I'm looking for, she was describing, and she was just like, it's here, it's just over there. And I said, oh, so now I'm in the group and I'm massaging this new information, and people are showing, okay, this is the housing that's in this area, and here are the numbers. And this is what I was like, okay, so there are things I think I've discredited, that now that I have more contact points of contact, it can open my eyes. And then others, I just knew Puerto Vallarta was going to be my place until that heat and humidity started. I mean, and then
No, baby.
competing, and I'm not going to Merida. And they're just things, that is just not what I center in my healing rest ministry is
You
the
just broke Agent Grateful heart by saying Puerto Vallarta was not an option. I'm pretty sure Bobby and Cedric are crying right now, but fine. Mexico's a big country. Maybe you will choose another city.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's a great question. Thank you, Third Eye Nation.
You're welcome. So this is great. And honestly, I'm just literally looking at the time. I'm like, what? We have been here for an hour and a half, but that's the reality of it. And I don't want to take up all of your time on this Sunday, but we have had we have covered a lot, the whole moving abroad, the whole money, talking about money, building wealth, and talking about generational wealth as well. And what for you that maybe that we haven't touched on that you want to highlight here before we actually bring this to an end?
Probably the thing that is the core of the move abroad process for us is why are you looking to move? We see it as a plan A, and we say that on our channel. We think moving abroad is a plan A for some of the struggle, the relief, the rest that we as Black people need to center much earlier than the retirement years.
Mm,
And so defining your why will help to clarify things. And don't be afraid to begin to have those conversations within yourself and within the people who will make a difference. And choose wisely in that circle of people who will make a difference in when you move and where you move. Um, you are worth every effort to invest in you, whether that's in the move abroad process and getting your money to do what it needs to do to give you the life that you want, and really sitting with yourself and being honest with yourself about what you need, when you need it, and then not being afraid to lean in to that process. Get good people around you. I didn't realize how many money coaches are in the Exodus Summit community that I'm just like, I'm tuning in because you all are speaking into the part of my life that has been very quiet
mm.
because it's just not talked about. And I need to build up the vocabulary. And so being able to center your why and then center the people around you that will make a difference, and you being able to choose you and then choose the life that you want. I'm so honored to be in this space and to connect with you, Sam, in this way, to lift up Black people, Black families, Black women, Black couples to make this their choice at the time that's right for them.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why you need to go right away and subscribe to the channel to hear more of this. Like, I can't do this on this channel. I know exactly what are my strength. But honestly, please subscribe to their channel. They're having great conversation up there. I always try to tune in each time that I can to your live and listen to your video. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for blessing my platforms and my listeners today with your wisdom, and also being vulnerable, because this is not easy. Talking about money, talking about building wealth and moving abroad, it's not easy. You have, I'm pretty sure, even yourself, even if you know what you want, you have those moments of doubt, and you are really open about that and to talk about that. And I really, really appreciate you being very honest about that. And I want to thank also you guys in the chat, for being so generous of your time today and exchanging among yourself and asking questions here. Um, this is a conversation, so we'll continue on the conversation. I'm hoping to have you back on the channel. When you guys finally decide where you're going, I'll give you some time to, get there and settle. But I will love, 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 love to have you back on the channel to talk about it. How things change for you guys, other things that you might be considering, then that you're not considering today. And I think it will be great to just follow you guys on your journey and, lead literally living through you for now, vicariously, as Stephanie says,
Yeah.
until I make my own move abroad. But it's really inspiring to see the whole journey of really preparing yourself to move abroad. So 2024 is the year. That's what I understood. It's
Yes,
right there in a month and a half. We just right there. So we'll be
that's
looking
right.
looking forward to getting more information in 2024, and I just can't wait for the next phase of your life and how things will unfold. I just wish you the utmost best, and of course we'll see each other next Saturday, probably at the Wealthy Black Women Summit.
Yes.
The link to the summit is in the description to this video. If anyone in the chat, you guys haven't registered yet, you can go ahead and register. It's for Black women building wealth, and so we'll be talking about financial wealth, but also any other parts of other aspect of wealth building, because I'm a money geek. I can talk about money all the time, but for some people, it's just too much. So I felt like, doing a full day of money talk, people will check out. So we do have, talks on getting hired, entrepreneurship, getting our body in a good shape. Dee mentioned here, as we age, our body start doing things that sometimes you're like, what's going on here? So we'll have someone coming to talk to us about that. But yeah, I want to thank you everyone for making the time, and go subscribe to the channel because more information will come right from there. And thank you so much again, Dee, for saying yes to coming on my platform here. And I can't wait to see more coming from you over at H and Dee Abroad.
Absolutely.
Thank
Have
you,
a good day,
everyone.
everyone.
Yeah, can you hold on for a second,
Sure.
Dee? Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.